Hey, I look for all the outside for 80 homes while the time. I cook myself, that's hot. That's hot. That's yeah. Bad parts I want about shit wash and the bats. And hard, so I go to the bar. The heart going my star, shots rushing. Wish I hard, it's fun. So I talk, I want to sack my head, I sense. It must be those days. But that's that food, chef that food, and then hard J-I-J. However, I cook shit new, I cook the yard. I won't, I
Why doesn't every home in the U.S. have solar panels? The number one reason is not about sunlight.
Eternal. Extraterrestrials amongst human beings. Living so well we can't be seen. It's the horror regime. It's an ancient thing. When the melanated skin tone used to be green. Ancestors, they bless us. Don't stress us. Don't mess us up. See before your time. There's a time to shine. 24,000 years. Live the sunset. Eternal. I'm back here, stay super fly. Hotter than the firecracker on the 4th of July. Came to the top room, free y'all knew. Meteorite to the planet, think y'all do. Unless you're in a spaceship, blasting off to the moon. Meditating to your days, jump in the room. I'd rather chant and meditate and stay in tune. Sabian makes moves so life can resume. Eternal like your ancestors, they got to stay. Don't stress us, don't mess us. Be before your time, it's our time to shine. 24,000 years in the sunset. Eternal. Toast sabbatical, never dramatical. When they come looking super fly, it's rhythmical, the street pharaoh. And the eternal apparel, looking sharper than the sharp cause of hero. The golden child, with the golden stop, was going into the clear strike amongst the knot. Sabian from Arabian, part Syrian, market being Sabian, that destroy your playing. Eternal like your ancestors, they bless us. Don't stress us, don't mess us. Be before your time, it's our time to shine. 24,000
Okay, roll back, Musa. Roll back. All right, Rahul back. Okay. All right, another week, as usual, right? Another week, Wu-Sabat. Another day of Wu-Sabat. We don't stop. We keep going. I appreciate that, Glenn R. I appreciate that. We do what we do. We have no choice. We have to do this. It's not an option for me. We got it. We got to teach. I've been doing it for so long. You can't stop. We have a mission, and we have to teach, and that's just the bottom line. The master teacher had to teach us, and we're obligated to teach. Our people. And I've been talking about that, right? Each one teach one. That's not an option. That's an obligation for students. In fact, we're going to get into a little bit of that today. We're going to get into that a little bit today. So, it's just what we got to do as being students of the master teacher. All right. Now, for those who do not know me, my name is Peti Sina Tebtu Ray. And I've been over a 30-year student teacher of the profound doctrine of the master teacher, known to us as Nabab Yaa-nanan, also known as Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, who has been teaching us our ancient culture. We identify as Wu-Sabat, also known as Wu-Nawab, which stands for those who make decisions based on sound right reasonability, based on the principles of Ma'at, based on the wisdom of the Hutri. In essence, what that really means is, as an African people, we lived in harmony with natural nature. Our culture was about being in harmony with natural nature. Now, today, people identify that as animism, right? Anyone who knows anything about African culture, our culture was always about spirituality. And there's a big difference between spirituality and religion. Religion deals with beliefs. Spirituality deals with actual facts, existence in nature, spirit forces, which are actual facts of existence, as opposed to religious beliefs or dogmas. And as an African people, this was our culture. We called it Noon, right? We identify that as Noon in ancient Kemet, Egypt, and it was called Wu-Sabat is another name, and Wu-Nawab, right? And it was about making decisions, being in harmony with nature. And we argue that Black people, we've been living in chaos for the last 500 years and really almost 6,000 years because we've gotten away from our original culture. We got away from doing things in harmony with natural nature. And now we're living Western culture, and Western culture is based on the opposite. They do things based on unnatural nature. Their whole society is based on artificial everything, and that is what's destroying the planet. And they admit that their culture is basically the cause of all the global destruction, from global warming to pollution to the death and destruction of this European culture that has plagued the world for the last 500 years, especially capitalism, communism, and socialism. Is destroying us. And we argue that we're not going to have peace, we're not going to have harmony until we get back to the cultures that worked for us as an African people. That is just the ultimate goal. And this is why we're dedicated to teaching it, to explaining it, and to help our people realize why this is the solution. The master teacher has been doing this for over 50 some odd years. And so we, as his students, we have dedicated ourselves to spread this information, to spread this knowledge, for those who want the truth, right? For those who want the truth. Now, I always make a disclaimer. I'm not above making mistakes. Okay. If I do have any mistakes or have any errors, I, do not hesitate to correct me. I have no problem correcting myself. And I'm just one of many brothers who are teaching this information around the globe, and we do our best. So with that being said, we like to get started with a prayer before we get into our lesson, right? Prayer is very, very important. And we did a lecture on that, why we pray. So I highly recommend individuals watching that lecture so you know why we do prayers. It's a spiritual thing. So we do the prayers in our language, which is Sabat, and we have the English translation. So we always ask people to follow along. And if you can do it in the Sabat, definitely do it in our language. So that's something we highly recommend. So with that being said, let's get started. Bade Kalal Namasat Wufag ko Aman Kasemun Shalal Put. Panen Safa Kawun Pa Sawa Wupa Tarak. Z Kawuna Nazula Laha Enkum Mane Sabad Wu-Saat. Amah Hade en Shafe Mane Salafu Wunataru. Ajula Ye Nafasu Kum. Afuk Shene Kawun Kuma. Pa-sawa wu-pa-tara. This book is the truth and the way. It was sent down for you all from Sabad Wu-Saat, star constellation, as a guidance and a healing. From your ancestors and overseers, return to your own. Accept what is yours, the truth and the way. And nun tawa ankum laha panan shafe'un wu-alaj. And nun tawa ankum laha nasuinun. Annun tawa ankum laha ashuk. Ankum ata salafunun. Annun ata qara'ukum. Annun talub nasakuma. Annun talub nasakuma. And so nun sayim nataru. And so nun salafunun. Annun ata musba'u. We thank you all for this healing and cure. We thank you all for not forgetting us. We thank you all for ashuk. You are our ancestors. We are your children. We seek your help. We seek your help. Help us, divine overseers. Help us, our ancestors. We are Musba'u. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amun. Jeddah 4. All right. With that being said, okay, we always go into our core principles. For those who are new or who are not familiar with our core principles, it is imperative that you understand that when you're when you're learning about our culture. It is imperative to understand what our culture is about, what our culture is based on, what do we live by, what do we strive for, what are our goals and aspirations. And so this is what our core principles are all about. And I go over it on all of my discussions because I think it's extremely important because people need to know this. And for those who are familiar, I'm always telling you guys to really study these core principles. And for those who know, all of our lectures are based around these core principles. So that's extremely important for everyone to be familiar with it. And guys, we say it every week because this is what you guys, it is imperative that you guys teach this. And so it's a reminder, it serves as a reminder so that you guys can understand these core principles and apply it for those who are familiar with our doctrine. So with that being said, principle number 1 is Ashak, and that stands for divine love, or what we call the power of love. We did a lecture on that, so we highly recommend for people to check it out. Principle number 2 is resurrection. And it's about us becoming goddesses and gods by learning to open our third eye once again. And you know, I can't say that's extremely important. We did lectures on that, so guys, definitely check that out. Principle number 3 is the wisdom of the Hutri and Ma'at. The Hutri stands for our divine mind, and Ma'at stands for order. Our culture is based on divine order, and we did lectures on those things. So definitely check that out for those who are not familiar with it. Principle number 4 is relationships. As an African people, we live of, for, and by each other, right? And this is, you know, crucial to you know, us as a people. We have to get back to these, you know, to that. And we did a lecture on that, so definitely check that out. Principle number 5 is morphic resonance / matrix. Morphic resonance is about sound, color, vibration, frequencies, right? And matrices are the manifestations of these morphic resonant frequencies. And now we haven't did a lecture on that yet, but we will, guys. We will. So be on the lookout for that. Principle number 6 is Leviathan, stands for moon culture, aka religion, aka Western culture. Leviathan is what we're at war with. Leviathan is the culture of the disagreeable ones, right? The adverse, the children of adversity. They live that culture, and it's this what's destroying the planet. And our goal is to get away from it, and we're at war with it. Principle number 7 is soul and spirit, right? You know, your soul is your emotional force, and your spirit is your life force. And we did lectures on that, so definitely check that out. Principle number 8 is health. Health equals a positive mind. The first key to health is a positive mind. As melanated children, we need a lot of sunlight, water. We require a lot of water. Our body is 70% water. Fasting, right? We recommend fasting at least once or twice a week. The body needs to rest. That's why we fast. Herbal diet, as Dr. Sabi talks about, is you know, very important. Exercising, you can't have health unless you exercise. Rhythmic breathing. This is something our people are not familiar with. We put out books on this, on how to learn how to rhythmic breathe. Then there's meditation, there's concentration, and prayer and chanting. Now, we always teach health is not just physical as they teach in the Western society, but it's also spiritual. It's both. You can't have one without the other. And our people are suffering because they don't know that. And we did a lecture on that, guys. So definitely check out our discussion on health. And the last is to acknowledge the creative force, which is pa'ut, right? It just translates to all. You can't take from the all, because where would you get it from? And you can't, you know, you can't add to the all, because where would you put it, right? All is. And existence is based on what we call a SMAT, cycles of nature, right? We always go from moon cycles to sun cycles, and moon cycles to sun cycles. And we used to know these things. We don't now. And this is why we're teaching it. And creation energy, we call it achak. It translates to ether. Scientists today, they call it the quantum field force. You know, they have their different names. You know, they don't call it ether anymore. They used to back in the 1800s and prior, but now they, you know, they're like, it's whatever. But so that's, you know, what it is. Now, as far as Sabians, we have 3 primary goals, right? All Sabians should know this. Goal number 1 is to raise yourself, right? Goal number 2 is to fight Leviathan. And goal number 3 is to work to build Sabbatia. And goal number 1 is about being born again, right? Giving up the culture, Western culture, right? And to live the culture of Wu-Sabat. This is imperative. In that process, you correct your name by choosing a Sabian name. Give the Mukasu back his European names that was never designed for us. So that's imperative. Correct how you dress, right? African clothing. You must learn to speak our language, right? Give up on English. English is a dead language. Our languages were based on tones and harmonics. So learn to speak our language, Sabaean. You must study our doctrine every day, which builds your sound right reasoning skills, guys. This is what helps you in your day-to-day decisions. The more you study the doctrine, the more it'll assist you in your day-to-day decisions and things you should and should not be doing. And you must practice and master our daily rituals to turn yourself inside out, which is the ultimate goal. This is how you're going to open up your third eye, right? And you won't get anything done unless you're positive. Okay, so that's nothing least worthwhile. Okay, always be positive. Now, number 2 goal is we're in a war with Leviathan. We're constantly fighting Leviathan. The master said, when this is Armageddon, the war between the righteous and the unrighteous, the war between the agreeable ones versus the disagreeable ones. Okay. And a part of that war is fighting the free Nabab Yaa-nanan, right? Promoting the culture, Wu-Sabat. That's being in the war and part of the battle. Become a student teacher. Okay. That's imperative. How can you spread this information if you really aren't learning how to teach this information? And to fight the 6 strongest weapons of Leviathan, which plagues us all, which is ignorance, fear, ego, anger, your lusts and desires, and lies and deceptions. These are attributes that we were all born with, that we have to get out of our nature. And this is what we're trying to help other people to get these negative behavior patterns out of our nature, guys. And then our third goal is to work to build Sabbatia. We have to get our own land. They took our land from us and we got to get it back. So we work to support each other in business. We help each other reach positive goals. We help to build our culture. We must set up a landing zone for Panatharu in Africa, which means we need land in Africa that would be supported by an African government. And Ashuk is the key to accomplish all our goals, guys. Now, what does it mean to be a Sabaean? A Sabaean is someone who's thoughtful and cares. Okay, someone's helpful and honest. Someone's responsible and hardworking. Someone who demands justice and is honorable. Someone who's righteous and humble. Someone who is positive and cheerful. Someone who is loving and peaceful. Someone who is kind and considerate. And someone who's neat, clean, and orderly. All right. Our purpose as Sabaeans each and every day is to liberate ourselves from these adverse forces. So this is what you should be waking up each and every day, figuring out how you're going to get free of these adverse forces. Number 1, you must take action each and every day to free yourself of the 62 spirits that are inside you and outside of you, which includes our own people. Black people are possessed with these spirit forces, and you either help them or get away from them. Number 2, acknowledge and fight 6 Ether from promoting capitalism, the gay agenda, miscegenation, the so-called equality of the races, racism, white supremacy, etc. Right? This past NoopooH News, we talked about the gay agenda and miscegenation. So for those who didn't see our news broadcast for Friday, check that out because it's yucky what they're doing. And then number 3 is learn, live by, and promote the laws/rules of natural nature. Now, word of advice: do not judge this doctrine by watching the behavior of Nabab Yaa-nanan nor his students. Judge this doctrine by the effectiveness of the information, aka information that you personally put to practical use. This doctrine is based on self-authentication, guys. It's based on self-authentication. This is why people leave our organization, because they never made the doctrine work for them. They never made they basically didn't live the culture. And so if you don't live something, you don't see the benefit of it. You don't see the significance of it. And this is why people fall off, guys. So this is why I stress this. Also, know that we are not preachers, but teachers who are dedicated to answering questions until there is a meeting of the minds between the teacher and the student, who can then work in unity, which is the only solution to our problems. We're not going to solve our problems until we unite. We're not going to solve our problems until we unite. And the reason why we haven't united, because we have yet to have a meeting of the minds. This is a huge problem for Sabaeans. Our organization is in disarray, and it's sad. Our tribe, we're not functioning the way we should be functioning. And that's because there hasn't been a meeting of the minds. This is why we do these lectures. This is why we have these classes, so that we can get to the point where we agree. I can't stress that enough. And so, hold on, guys. I need to fix something with my other computer because it times out, but hopefully you guys are hearing me. Let me just check. Make sure everybody is able to hear. So it looks like I'm good on this note, on this link. That's what's up. That is what's up. Okay. Yeah, and so it's so it's so much. It's just so much that the key is the meeting of the minds I was talking about, and it's so imperative that we um, get to that point, because we're not it just makes us trying to accomplish our goals 1,000 times more difficult, because we're not working in unison, and we're supposed to be working in unison. And the reason why we're not working in unison, and brothers and sisters are not supporting each other, because there is no meeting of the minds. This is the problem. This is the problem. And we have to fix that. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. We have to get to that point where excuse me, where brothers and sisters, we're agreeing with each other. This is why I do the lectures. Now, I've been doing these discussions, guys. Look at this. When did we start? When did we start? Let me see something here. Where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? Let's see. Anyone who goes to my channel, right? You go to my channel. All you gotta do is scroll down to the very first video. And the very first video, it'll tell you 6 years ago. 6 years ago. It was really 7 years ago, because I actually started in 2016. And so, again, we've been putting out these lectures, one, to educate our people, right? To educate our people about Wu-Sabat. Two, to help students of Wu-Sabat, to help them better comprehend it, the information. Based on my level of comprehension, I've been around long enough, and my job is to try my best to help as many people as I possibly can. Because the goal is for like I said, for there to be a meeting of the minds, right? And this is what will get us all working together when there is. I don't have enough people comment. I'm talking about students, and the master has thousands of students, and we're not getting enough people commenting and talking, watching the lectures, and debating. Why aren't we supposed to be coming together, guys? We have too many brothers and sisters who are with just too individualized still. We're not going to accomplish any goals. If a brother and sister out there feels that what I'm saying is incorrect, then come talk to me. Help me. Because this is why I put myself out there, because of the simple fact that it's like, this is what our doctrine is. This is how we should be doing things. This is why we should be doing certain things, and we should be building with one another. And unfortunately, it's not happening the way it should be happening. That is what it is. But I'm not going to stop. But this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Now, today's discussion is a little how can I say, we're not following our normal format, because I'm a little I'm doing a little bit informal, right? Because I usually have a format as I go through. So today's a little bit freestyle. But I wanted to talk about the letters. The master teacher, there's been a lot of letters and updates the master teacher has put out over the years since they have had kidnapped him. And I want to go over some of those things, because it's imperative, right? And I think some information is in these discussions or letters that haven't been really talked about in detail in the books or other discussions. And so we want to go over that. And one I recommend, guys, and getting into this, we did a lecture dealing with the where is it at? This one here, UFOs, ETs, and interdimensional reality. If you have not watched that discussion, because if you're not too familiar on a UFO topic, on an alien phenomenon subject matter, I highly recommend you study this discussion. I think it's a really good lecture that we did. very comparable, I think, to a lot of the lectures that Mukasu put out there about the UFO phenomena. I think we've done almost as good as they put out stuff on this subject matter to educate our people about this topic. Because you really can't be being a student and master teacher and not be familiar with this subject matter. This subject matter is extraordinarily important, because this is the basis of our doctrine, trying to educate our people that we are a multiversal people. We come from a family that exists throughout the balanced multiverse. And this is what the master is trying to re-educate us about. We used to know this, and we forgot our own history. We forgot our origins. And we forgot that we are celestial beings. This is why the master teacher wrote this book. Are you a celestial being or are you a terrestrial being? Most of our people, they just ignore the celestial part of their nature. They just want to be terrestrials. They only focus on materialism of the earth. They don't want to acknowledge that existence is boundless. There's multi dimensions, there's multiple realities, there's existence has no bounds, and unfortunately, most of our people, they don't care. They just ignore it. And a lot of students, unfortunately, ignore this aspect of our doctrine. And the master has been trying to beat this into our brain. Yeah, you're right. Glenn rated, it is a very sensitive subject matter. It's a very sensitive subject matter. And our people, Black people, seem to be the one group of people that are the most ignorant on this subject matter. We really do not address it. Outside of the master teacher, I'm trying to think. The only person I know who used to address this on a regular basis on the UFO phenomena was our boy Dilbert Blair, the brother who transitioned. He's the only brother I know outside of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad who introduced it to our people back in the 30s and the 40s. he tried to educate us. Farrakhan touches it, so I can't take nothing away from Farrakhan. Remember, in fact, he in 2010, the Savior's Day that he did in 2010, he actually he dedicated that Savior's Day or week to the UFO phenomena. He did a big thing on that because I have the lectures. But our people ignore it because I don't hear anyone outside of Farrakhan talking about the UFO phenomena. Most Nation Islam people, they don't address it. Black people as a whole don't address it. If you notice Sonetta, he don't ever talk about it. It's just our people don't deal with this subject matter, and it's very weird, especially now in today's culture where the Mukasu, Europeans, they're putting that information out. The government is letting everyone know this is a real thing. This is not fake. They've exposed this to everyone. And so the fact that our people in general, are ignoring it is crazy, And we as Africans talked about it. The Dogons talked about it. The Zulu talked about it. The Ethiopians talked about this ET existence, and we just ignore it. So it is what it is. It is what it is. But I just as a warning, if you're a student and a master teacher, you have no excuse to be ignorant on this subject matter. So with that being said, I want to play this clip. I played it before from the master, and it's very relevant to what we're talking about before we get into the letters, right? So I want you guys to check this out. If I can find it, here it is. And listen. Now, this is the master. This was back in, I think 93. This is when we were upstate New York. The master teacher was talking, and it's a short clip. Okay. So, like I said, I played it once before. I forgot what video I did it on, but you guys need to hear it again because it's very important and is dealing with this subject matter. And the master's he's going into his purpose, why he's even here, what his purpose is in regards to us. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Billy Carson does talk about it, Zamal. I forgot about him. I don't, Billy Carson's, I can't put him in the category of Dilbert Blair though, but he's interesting brother. I give him that. He does touch on it, so I can't say he doesn't. Those are facts. Those are facts. But we'll get into it. Hold on.
And do evil continuously. You follow? So the breeding process has to be a gradual thing. So yes, there are good beings and bad beings. The elders are looking for 144,000 of their children to take up with them, so that they can be groomed and come back and teach the children of Adam. That's why I said they'll reign with the Lamb, and then they'll come and ride back forth, and they will teach, and they will conquer the devil, and the false preachers, and the false Christ, and those souls with them, and those who have the mark of the beast. We're looking for those who have the mark of the Father, and his name on them. Not just Adam people, because you have just Adamites here. They came from Adam and Eve and Seth. Then you have the sons of Allah who mix in with those people and produce their own children, and they live with them. And you had the sons of the evil that mixed in here, and they had sons, and they took good women and mixed with them. So the planet is confused emotionally. There's people here that look good, and there's people here that are evil. Sometimes a wife can find out after 10 years my husband's a demon. I just realized my husband is a demon. And she might not want to deal with that reality because she loves him. That's called Beauty and the Beast in the movie. She does not want to accept my man as a devil. Or this brother might not want to accept my wife as a demon. All she does is try to pull me towards beggars, materialistic things. That's because they're all mixing. How they look just like you. They have nappy hair, black skin, wavy hair, but it's you. They talk like you, they walk like you, but they have this inclination towards evil. Things are always happening to them. The other side of happening to them is the other people that I reached out to on the tape a long time ago because I knew that they would hear this and they would come towards me. When I said there's a certain group of people out there, you know who I'm talking about. You see that the world is against you. You feel that everybody's out for you. Everything you try to do, they block it. School wasn't working. People say, I just can't learn in school. It's not that you can't learn in school. Can I talk frankly here? Your mind is allergic to bull. Angelic beings are allergic to bull. They don't fit well in the public system. They don't grab onto Columbus discovered America and crap like that. Black devils are your black intellectuals. For one, they fit right into society, graduate with 5 letters from college and assimilate all that devilish knowledge in their head and go out and teach it. But you said, I can't seem to get along in school. I can't learn this crap. The teachers don't like me. I'm not interested in being on the football team. That's what you start doing. You start withdrawing and putting on records and listening to music all day. No, listen to music because I'm so depressed. You can't find a woman I like. Because you can't trust them. The woman said, can't find a man I like. You can't trust them. I don't know what I like. Your shoes, you can stand up front of a store looking at shoes for hours. I like those. Oh, okay, you gotta give me those. You do not fit in. The reason why you don't fit in is because you do not belong here. This is not your place. And you're never going to fit in. But you are able to assimilate. You're able to fit in a sense where you can hang out with a crowd of people and not really be one. Socialize with people and laugh at their jokes when they're not really funny to you. Be led to a party you didn't want to go to. Drink something you wasn't interested in drinking. Smoke a reefer you wasn't really interested in smoking. And have a girlfriend you don't really like. Or husband, have your body, somebody. You're not from here. You will have to be gathered at a cold time. You'll hear a voice and it'll tell you what to do. That's what I'm really here to teach. All the rest of y'all, I don't care where you go. Because you're not a part of us. And the strange thing, if that bothered you, then something must have clicked inside saying that I want us. You know what I'm saying? But other people say, man, some people say, well, I'm glad they're us. They saw themselves. You see, when that happened, if you saw yourself with You was all right. If you didn't, then wonder why you didn't. Oh, he's talking about leaving me. I didn't mention no names. You can read into it yourself then. Your soul will tell you. You know what I'm saying? I'm only here for the children of the extraterrestrials. The Elohim. I'm not here for the sons and daughters of Adam. You had religions, you had prophets, you had every kind of religion. You stone your prophets, you kill them. You try to make me a prophet so you can stone me. You want to make me Jesus so you can crucify me. That's how y'all want to live. It's not like those days are over. We're here strictly for the extraterrestrials. And they're here and they're extra. They don't belong here. And they know they don't belong here because they just don't fit. We don't have ugly and pretty. Well, if you think you're pretty because your nose is sharp, you got a European soul. If you think another person is ugly because they got a big nose and big lips, you have a European soul. You understand what I'm saying? If you know that brother or sister has very African features, and you say, "Ooh, he's ugly," and you look at somebody over here and they have very European features, say, "Wow, she's pretty," you have a European soul. If you catch yourself in the mirror trying to thin your lips while you're making them, you have a European soul. If you gotta have that hair hanging in your face like a spider, you got a European soul. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that if they have gotten inside of our systems to destroy us. And you better look inside and do some soul searching. I'm telling you, the journey is not out, it's in. The first journey is in here. You gotta go inside first and we'll meet there. Not outside. Stop looking in the clouds for spooks. You're not there. You have to go inside, soul search, and clean the house. And you know whose mess is going to be in there? Your mess. Your bad habits. If you can't clean it because you find yourself always regressing back to the negative, then realize what you are. Get up with yourself.
Okay. I hope you guys heard that. Like I said, the goal is to develop yourself spiritually, and as the master said, if you can't overcome your negative habits, those are the negative spirit forces that's plaguing us. The goal is to be able to resurrect, to develop yourself spiritually. That is the whole basis of our teaching, so that you would be able to make contact with the Nathar, as the master teacher said. And he talks about, they're broadcasting signals. If anyone who reads the actual facts number 18, he talks about that you have to develop yourself so you can actually tune in to their frequency, guys. That is important. Nubarian, no, that wasn't a CD. That was an actual recording on the land that was recorded. It was never put out onto a CD, just so you know. It was just a private recording on the land. It was just passed down from brother to brother. So I got it from another brother, and but it was never put out on, to my knowledge. I'll put it like that. To my knowledge, it was never put out. Okay. So now I want to go into some of the updates and letters that the master teacher had put out that you guys need to be familiar with. Okay, the first one we're gonna talk about is, let's see if I can find it. Oh, I'm in the wrong place, actually. I'm looking in the wrong spot. Okay, it's called The Rapture, aka the first resurrection. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with this particular update. If you guys are, say yes. I'll be interested if anyone's familiar with this update called The Rapture. Came out, I believe, in 2013. So, I don't know if anyone who's familiar with this particular update. Okay, so you know, let me go. I'm gonna go into this. Oh, and while I'm doing that, I need to expose you guys to something else also. While you guys are on the subject of books and things like that, there's a book you guys need to get. I highly recommend it. You can you can download it online for free. Okay, let's see, NoopooH Live docs, online books. Okay, you can download this book online for free. And let me see, let me find it before I get started. Let me try to find it. Where is it? Here it is. The name of this book, I don't know if you guys noticed, it's called, or ever heard of this. It's called God Wills the Negro. If anyone heard this, press yes. Let me know if you heard this before. Know about this book. God Will the Negro. God Wills the Negro. Came out in the 1930s. It was written in the 1930s. God Willed the Negro. Written by a guy named Theodore P. Ford. Theodore P. Ford wrote it 1939. 1939. If anybody familiar with this book, it's called God Will the Negroes. But yeah, it came out. This is a very interesting book. In fact, I learned about this book listening to Bobby Hemmett. This was years ago. Years ago. He was the one that put me on to this book. It's very deep. It's very interesting because this book is this Mukasu wrote this book, who was an anthropologist, I think he was, and a minister or something. He wrote this book, and the whole book is about, he's arguing that black people here in America are the descendants of the ancient Egyptians, and he does a really good argument. he says quite a few things we teach, and this is in the 30s, and the whole book is about black people, and American blacks are originally from ancient Egypt. It's really an excellent and an interesting read, guys. It really is an interesting book to look into. Okay. So for anyone who's not familiar with it, again, you can download it for free. It's on PDF on the internet. Okay, now with that being said, let's go back to the update. All right, so now, okay, so let's get started. Nibiru is the heading. All right, now it says the Torah. The Torah took the concept of the manjet, which is the solar boat of Re'eh, which is really a craft, not a boat, and copied it into Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. Okay, so for those familiar, right, the manjet is also synonymous with the craft called Nibiru, is a big planet ship that the masters travel in. Okay, so where's my other pictures? Just to give you guys, I like having this picture up of the masters. Okay, so they travel in this big ship, this planet ship. For those who are familiar with Star Wars, the Death Star, something like that. Well, of course, theirs is not a Death Star, but it gives you an idea of beings having technology like this. Okay. Zamar, is it on Scribes? No, it's just on it. Just Google it. Just Google it, guys, and just put it in on the PDF, and you should be able to download the book for free. Okay. So let me keep going. All right. So, okay. Where it mentions gods or Elohim hovering over the surface of the waters, in a craft. That's a craft, and the master saying in the book of Genesis. That's really what they're talking about. It says, in the morning rising, the craft of Re takes on the name Manjet, right? Which is the craft that crosses the sky, coming from the Duat, the underworld, rising in the east, and is used by the principle of Re called Atum Re, the morning sun. So, and that point, because in ancient Kemet we had 4 points of Re. So you had Atum Re, or starts with Anun Re, then Atum Re, right, which is the rising, which is what they called it the Manjet when it was in that position. Then you have Atun Re'e, and then we have Amun Re'e, which is the setting sun. Okay, so when it was in the position of Atun, the craft was called the Manjet, right? All right, so now it goes on to say this boat or bark allows Re to the freedom of the heavens. In the evening setting, it takes the name. Okay. So in the evening, it takes the name Misiket. In the evening, so that's would be Amun Re'e, which is the boat descending from the sky towards the underworld. This principle of its setting in the west was used in the principle of Re called Amun Re, the setting sun, right? And then you have Osiris or Asaru, as Re also employed the bark on his nightly journey or voyages to the Duat, the underworld. The bark of Asar was called Neshmat, right? The Manjet is also used in the high point of the day called noon, as and is the principle of Re called Atun Re, the high noon sun. So when the Manjet is also in the high noon position, or Atun Re, it keeps that name the Manjet. So, and it's when it's in the position of Atun, and you know what, guys, just to give people some visuals, this is the smack circle, right? This is the smack circle. So you have Atun Re'e, which see right here, that the rising, it's on the east, and then you have Atun on the top is in the north, Amun is west, and then Ahnun is in the south, just to give some people some perspective on that. Let's see, where am I? Okay, so now says they are all the same craft in different phases, right? Re appear in the east above Minu, the mountain of sunrise, and traverse the sky in the Minet boat. The crew of the Manjet, or Nibiru, that's another name that the Sumerians called it. The Nibiru craft was made up of 144,000 gods of creation and wisdom, having mystical powers, right? This is the Natharu. Horus or Haru stood at the helm, the back of the boat, while the Hutri or Thought was positioned at the bow of the front of the boat. When they refer to the Mindet or Misichet or Manjet as the boat of Re, it is not really a boat that journeyed through the waters, for the Egyptian word for boat is Wa. This was really a craft that traversed or hovered in the sky, or as the Bible terms it in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, moved upon the surface of the waters, like Nibiru, which means planet of the crossing, or planet that crosses the sky, from the root word Nabara, meaning to rise or elevate. And Nibiru is the Sumerian or cuneiform for the Egyptian Manjet. The great planet ship Nibiru, also called the mother plane. That's what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called it, the mother plane. And of course, Revelations talks about the same thing. It's, the crystal city and the kingdom has within it many motherships, and the cylinder crabs, some up to 30 feet long, and shams and saucer crabs. All of these things are inside this mothership, all these different types of ships. And anyone who watches sci-fi movies, they show it all the time. Question: are the Natharu the same as the Anunnaki? No, these are two different beings, two different groups of beings. Okay, the Nathar and the Anunnaki are two different groups of beings, as the masters explained it. All right, so let's go. But they work together. Let me just say that they work together. At least Inky works with the Nathar. Okay, the master made that clear. But let's keep going. He goes on to say Ki, which is the name for the planet Earth, was the first site set for the purpose of mining such minerals as uranium, plutonium, chlorophyll, platinum, gold, diamonds, silver, as well as to scan the ocean floors for chlorine and for other elements that were beneficial to these beings in the other planets. In the depths of the ocean of this planet Earth are some of the most valuable resources for human life, such as food, such as kelp, different types of fish, and energy sources such as iodine. Several minerals resources lie on the ocean floor and in solution above it, such as salt, magnesium, and bovine. Other beings from other galaxies know of these resources, and thus they have made many visits here, taking what they excavate back to their homes. And they continue to visit this planet and even live under the seas. Earth is on the ancient space route. Extraterrestrials come here to set up bases in cavern city complexes, and they mine, manufacture, and do genetic manipulation to form various subservient crossbreeds. Earth was also used as a hunting ground and a resort. The beings would intergalactically travel from planet to planet doing what was called planetary shopping. They would travel the universe in ships that were smaller than Nibiru, some 60 feet across, some 30 feet across, some even 10 feet across. They were equipped for space traveling, generally carrying a crew of an archaeologist, an ecologist, and a defense crew in case of an emergency, a doctor, and a pilot. They would seek out flat plain areas to avoid cities and earth people. Once the area were mapped out, they were to where they would find or get resources. They called them Moors. For 300 years, a conflict has been going on between the Greys, who are basically warlike and aggressive, versus the high factions of the infrastructure, who are the Anunnaki. Now, the Anunnaki are a supreme race of beings from Ilium. They are dark reddish brown in skin complexion, with slanted eyes that opens and closes just like ours. Their eyes, though, are much larger than that of humans. The average Nubians are starting to be born looking like these Elohim or Anunnaki. They also have kinky or woolly hair. Both groups, the Anunnaki and the reptilians, are using and crossbreeding with humans. The Anunnakis are from the 8th planet Risk of the 19th galaxy called Ilium, originally referred to as Heaven, known as Elysium in Greek. They have conducted experiments on Earth that have involved both artificial insemination and interbreeding with animal beings called humans. Okay. This is how they identify as. In fact, you know what? Watch the movie. If you guys have watched the movie Thor, Thor, because that's what Odin referred to Thor's girlfriend as. I think it was the part 2 when he had to bring her to Asgard. But anyway, let's keep going. They created a genetic underspecies of humans to do mining and other works. A large portion of present day humanity is descended from mixed gene ancestry. The Anunnaki, who are agreeable beings, they represent the sheep race, and the reptilians, who are disagreeable beings, they represent the dog race. Both continue to crossbreed with humans. They need humans and conspire together to keep humans ignorant and under control. You hear that? Humans must recognize the control web and go beyond it. There is a species of Riskians that did the genetic development of human called humans and initially controlled the initial interbreeding with primitive humans 2,250,000 years ago. Thus, the sudden emergence from Cro-Magnon human to Homo erectus to Homo sapiens. These beings were responsible for the progression of man by, by them breeding Homo erectus, so man's rate of evolution increased, a process which took 600 years. 100 years for preparation and graft and gathering of species for breeding, 400 years for the process, and 100 years following that for educating and civilizing the newly fashioned being. The Anunnaki were trying to build a worker who was more aggressive and more violent to help mine the gold mines. So they mixed their divine seed with the Homo erectus, whom was mixed with the shaggy beings from Sirius in the Orion star constellation. And then from there, they bred an overseer and worker called the Homo sapien, who is what you see today, the Nubian race with non-ether hair, unlike any other animal on the planet Earth. So they, the Riskians, also known as supernatural beings or superior beings, and the true supreme beings. So the ETs own the mining companies. You never know. They probably do. Now, their basic purpose is the law of one, Anu, who is also known as An or En, meaning the heavenly one, later called Om. So it is only right to live in service to others, and that is the Anunnaki or the high ones. Now, this is interesting, this law of one thing, because the master talked about this before in this other book, because this is something Mukaso talks about all the time, this law of one thing. You know, so it's interesting that they put it in this update, but I don't have enough information on that to speak on it. But I find it interesting. The master has talked about it, but he didn't say that was connected to us, this concept, unless we're talking about the existence. We acknowledge the existence of Pa'ut, which is, all, right? But I'm not too sure about it, but we'll keep going. Now, a whole Starfleet came to Earth in ether form, and the body of the person utilized was Dr. Malachi Z. York. Yaa-nanan. Dr. Malachi Z. York was not chosen. Yaa-nanan was actually bred for us. He came from a Starfleet of people that are scientists or storagers or loggers of information. They are the ones that keep the Akasha records. They keep the logs of everything that takes place in all the universes, guys. They are what you would refer to as accountants. They are allowed to go from galaxy to galaxy. However, the time they reside in galaxies change. Us humans reside in a galaxy for 90 years on a planet. When Yaa-nanan comes from, where Yaa-nanan comes from, they live to be trillions of years old. Beings are raised up to the level of Etherian beings or beings of light energy, right? So this is how these beings live. Basically, they're spirit beings who incarnate into humanoid bodies. He goes on to say, yet when they are in a physical state, they live to be 120 years old. So to stay here on Earth for 20 years is like staying for one day to them. They stay here and then they move on to another galaxy. Yaa-nanan's sole and only purpose for incarnating on this planet is to save the descendants, the star people or star children of Panatharu. the Natharu, from being killed as the planet nears total destruction. But first, these children of the Natharu have to be aligned through the activation of certain DNA within each individual. The Natharu are only here for their children and their children only, the star people, because these children are born with the birthright to communicate interdimensionally with different beings. They talking about us, the Nagato race. Okay. However, the disagreeable beings are trying to block you, the star children or the star child, from advancing. Why? You may ask. So that you will not be able to communicate with other beings and make that link with your etheric parents who are waiting to reconnect. They know you have to elevate to a certain level first. Guys, this is what I've been talking about, why spiritual development is so important and why the Mukasu spends his time distracting us. You know, why most of our people, I said, are materialists like the Mukasu. They're not even thinking about their spiritual nature. Mukasu is doing everything in his power to make sure we don't focus on developing ourselves spiritually. And again, this is why they took our land. Let's keep going. Now, they know you need to go to the next level of information in order to be seen by your etheric parents when they come for you. They do not have physical eyes, so they will be looking for your light or your aura. If your aura is not bright enough, or you haven't become strong enough spiritually, they will not see you, even though you may be standing right in front of them. You have, as a human on earth, have a light body, you have a physical body, you have a spiritual body, you have a mental body, and you have an etheric body. Why am I pointing this out? This is the third time Nibiru is coming for this equinox period of 24,000 years. And this time is the most disastrous. The most disastrous. Comets are disturbed and meteorites are predicted to hit this planet because of the strong gravitational pull from Nibiru. Many of the ancient civilizations that have disappeared before have done so during the third part of that equinox. We are in the third part of this equinox and in the second sun cycle, each cycle lasting 6,000 years. At any given point within the point of August the 12th, 2003 and June the 26th, 2030 is your rapture called the lift. There are many of you so-called Nuwapians among us assuming, thinking because you have right knowledge that you are going to make it into the shams or the crafts. That is not true. You are surely underestimating yourselves. And the reason why the master is saying that, guys, because you have to raise up your vibration. And a lot of our people are not doing the spiritual work. You know, this is something I've been talking about over and over many times. Panatharu look down upon you and laugh. Can you honestly say that you showed reverence, respect, and gratitude to Anu Aliyun El for your health, or Re'e, we say now, guys, for your health, for your life, for everything else, for speeding up your evolutionary process from a homogeneous monkey man to a Homo sapien, for blessing you with woolly hair of the supreme beings with 24 strands of genes coded in divine melanin, for stepping down his attributes into you, making you a living soul. I could go on and on. Why would you risk or want to risk being left behind for another equinox, another 24,000 years, Nawapians? Prayer is all about showing gratitude, saying thank you. So did you? Did you at least for the past 13 minutes or 13 years from 1999 through 2013 show and prove your worthiness? Or did you listen to the black devils who said gods don't pray That's religious. Guys, so a lot of people say that, man, brothers. That's why I did that lecture, right? Why we pray. Guys, you need to check that out for those who haven't seen it. And if you only watched it once, you need to check that lecture out I did on why we pray, why we chant, why we do the rituals. That's why I did those, those discussions to make those things clear. Glenn asks a question. Are there any black people in this world that have the prerequisite to communicate with our intergalactical family, or is it only Dr. Malachi Z.K. York? Excellent question, Glenn. I've been teaching. I've been teaching throughout the lectures, all the lectures. Really pay attention. Everyone has that ability. All black people on earth is born with that right. All of us are. The problem is our people don't do spiritual work to develop themselves to be able to do it. The vast majority, it's sad because the vast majority, from my personal experience, the vast majority of the master teacher students are not spiritual. That's why I keep showing you that book, right? What's that book? Celestial Beings versus Terrestrial Beings. Most students are not celestial in nature. They're not trying to do the rituals. These things are real. Spiritual, the other realms. If y'all really dedicate yourself to doing the rituals every day, not some days, not once a week, every day, guys, this is how you raise your vibration. It's very real. Just study the out of body experience. Study people who do out of body, who go out of body. Research them. Research that subject matter. This is what I said before. You have to raise up to the spiritual plane. That's how you can communicate with them. It's not easy. It hasn't been easy for me, guys. I didn't even become aware of this ability, till 2007 is really when I began to comprehend a lot of the things the master was explaining about spirituality. It took me to 2007 to really begin to get it. And it's a journey because we deal with so many distractions, but it's in us. That's why I said read that book, The Actual Facts number 17 and The Actual Facts number 18. They explain it specifically. You have that ability to communicate with them. That's the whole point of our whole doctrine. The book, I also talk about the materialization book, right? That the master put out. He explains in detail the rituals on how to communicate with your oversoul. That's your goal. The book, Is There Life After Death? The same thing. That book explains in detail. It tells you the rituals, how to make contact with your oversoul, and how to communicate with the Nathar. I can't stress this enough, guys. So let's see. Yes, Carlos, that's the Sons of the Green Light pamphlet. Yes, I see. Now, see, Silos, the brother Carlos Silos, he's letting you guys know. He's letting you guys know his experience with the master. This is very real, guys. I can't stress it enough. This is very real. Okay, very real. Let me keep going. So, guys, listen. I've been dealing with this with the master. Again. How can I say? What do I say? It's people have a problem, with let me just show you this, guys. And I'm talking about students. A lot of students have a problem with this, the spiritual stuff in our doctrine. I met most of the students in my experience that I've come across in our doctrine, they're nationalists. They're nationalists, like Umar Johnson and them. They're about building a black nation. That's their main focus, but it's hard for a lot of students when you start talking about spirituality. That That's hard, because if that's not a part of you, you're you know, that in you, that's hard. Okay. You know, I'll kind of leave it at that. It's just it's hard, but you guys got to work through that. I don't know what else to say on that subject. I can't stress it enough. I'm always talking about it. Here, let's see if I can find this. Now, if anybody else, you guys are familiar with the Ma'at class that the master did on the land. This was the one class that the master dealt with spirituality, right? So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. You know, I don't know, and so this, I was in that class, and I was the only person that actually asked the master 2 questions that night. Now, and my first question I asked him was about this. My first question I asked him was about basically how to make contact. Well, the terminology I used back then, and he kind of laughed at me, is how do you know, when you become enlightened? Okay. And he was explaining. Now, to give you the backdrop for those who are not familiar, this was back in 1998 that this class took place. It was on a Thursday night. And so the master was, this is when we were in Om, right? The ancient mystic order of Melchizedek. It was on a Thursday night, and this had to been it was in the summer, and it was like in August, and we was on the land, and it might have been, if it was 20 people, I think, no more than 20 people, 25, I don't know. It wasn't a lot of people out there. It was pitch black. We were in blackness, and the master was dressed like when you see him dressed in his ancient Egyptian clothes. So he was dressed in his ancient Egyptian attire, and the whole class was on spirituality, right? It was on spirituality. Let me see. I'm gonna find this one clip if I can find it and play just one part for you. Excuse me. Okay.
That principle has always been raised amongst the ancient disciples themselves. And that's why in the language,
I'm gonna skip to the part where I was asking the question.
And you had to combine the word spirit. I've got so much information to be true. They came out of the world with dishonesty, and the ancient Egypt to you and given you the secret that we are actually given to their loved ones. But I have those tools. That's not true. Folks were faithful, like I said, but they're not true. There'll be a first one standing for that.
All right, I think I'm coming up.
Not the rule to be true. They came out of the world with dishonesty and self-preservation and self-righteousness and ego was the reigning force, and introduced them to a culture like the Ansar law tried to introduce, which meant restraining yourself from the world and the family and everything else to prepare yourself. Most of them couldn't do it. They only pretended they did while they was in Ansar law and the still doing all the things they were told not to do. So they never really got the spiritual side of our people. And we opened the sun to the green light years ago for the Sufi, and we started and had to stop because people were taking the lessons and giving to their loved ones.
Okay, so the master was talking about, we had the first spiritual order was the Sufi order, and he was saying how unfortunately the students back then were, sharing the doctrine, sharing the lessons that you couldn't share the lessons with anyone outside the order, but brothers were doing it, and so he had to shut it down, and they weren't taking they basically was saying they weren't taking it seriously. So he had to shut it down and then he came with your ancient mystic order of Melchizedek Om. Like I said, this was in 1998 that this took place. Okay, and it was on the land. And so keep listening.
And passed with their wife, it was my wife, so it's okay. Was my husband, so it's okay. And spiritual masters came to me and said, they are dishonoring the secrets, they're not keeping them sacred. So we must go underground again. And that's why I spoke. And we had hoped in this time it will come forth again in a short time, a little bit of time, to get the job done. But it's time for salvation again. As people here, but it's time for salvation again. As people here, but it's time seeking faith, then things will be revealed to them. As of now, I haven't really opened the doors to ancient Egypt to you and given you the secrets that we have
hold on.
taken so long to watch. They were in their church, they never really heard the number one.
Okay, something with my recording. What happened? There's something on my recording. It's skipping.
The children all the things told not to do, so they never really got the spiritual side of our teaching. And we opened the sun to the green light years ago.
All right, hold on.
And we started and had to stop because people were taking the lessons and giving it to their loved ones. And passing it to their wife, so it's not right, so it's okay. But my husband, so it's okay. And the spiritual masters came to me and said, they are dishonoring the secrets, they're not keeping them sacred. So we must go underground again. And that's why I spoke. And we had hoped in this time it will come forth again in a short time, a little bit of time, to get the job done. But it's time for salvation again. As people here can keep the secret safe, then things will be revealed to them. As of now, I haven't really opened the doors to ancient Egypt to you and given you the secrets that we have kept sacred for so long to watch. Knowledge that you're supposed to know about yourself and how it all happened. I haven't done it as of yet. I talk about himself and how it all happened. I haven't done it as of yet. I talk about himself and how it all happened. I haven't done it as of yet. But I haven't pulled that elite who aside and passed on those secret words, the words that are active wanted in rock so bad. The secret words the Freemasons are trying to get that gives you that power to rest. You can't pass it on to people rest. And you'll know when you're ready when you become your own judge. You follow? So it doesn't make no difference if you're here 20 years or 20 minutes. If you intend to do the right thing, you intend to work by spirit and not by body. You intend to involve, become a part of the rays of the sun's light. To the east, and you won't have missed nothing. But if you come here and you just want to be part of a mystical order that makes you feel spiritual, you don't take your initiations, you don't follow instructions, you don't do anything that is prescribed to you in lessons, then you just waste your mind and your time. It's just something else to do. In the Freemason law, there are those who are serious. In law, there are those who are serious. In law, there are those who are serious. You just buy their way through the 3 degrees. You know? You just read them and they just walk around masturbation with a ring and a symbol, and they don't even have a clue of the secrets and the hidden meanings of these things. None whatsoever. But they think they do, they go to fraternity, they go to the Lord's meetings, they go to conventions, they put on aprons, they put on the 3 great lights, they took their Bible conference square, and they learn certain of the triad terms that are used, you know, from degree to degree as they read, but they don't, none of it, and they never pass the world arc and turn right. They pass the world arc and they hit with a light in the eye. And that light I spoke about several times is a blinding light. On this side of intellect, the light is blinding. And the way the teachers do is they teach them about the light. Tell them the light is the knowledge, the light is the intelligence, the light is the intellect, the light is the God, the light is the way, the light is this. But light's blind. Darkness, but light's blind. Darkness, but light's blind.
I don't know why it keeps doing that.
Are blindfolded. As I mentioned just yesterday. And while they're blindfolded, in that period that they're waiting in the lodge for someone to remove that blindfold, the inquisitive mind starts to work. In the dark, the mind starts to speed up, starts to wait. What's going on? What's going to happen? What's coming up next? What's going on? Who's this? What's that center from? What's this wood? You understand? Why the table so? Why my legs? One calf leg raised. Why this? Why that? You follow? That's when they're divine. Once they remove the blindfold, then they're blind. When you hit them with the light of Freemasonry and start giving them the principles of Freemasonry and start giving them the tools of Freemasonry, and you put the Bible in their hand and you point down on the altar and you open the Bible, and there they can accomplish and quit. And you look down and say, these are three great lights. And you look down, when I travel three candidates, and you look down, when I travel three candidates, and you look down, when I travel three candidates, and those are real three great lights. When you have the person look down, you point down, he looks down, looking away from the three candles to represent the three suns, they know right then that he is blinded by the light. And that light is the compass and square, and how they will build his Bible around him and reshape him from a God into a mere man. You understand? So, in our order, all the symbolism, all of the tools that we use, all are geared towards being able to see in the dark and avoid the beam of the light. You understand? Yes.
Okay, now this is me. I'm about to ask a question. Like I said, what's that? Kepre? I'm pretty sure the class is on what's YT? I don't know YT. It's on the land. It was in Tamaray. It was on the land in upstate. Upstate. It was not upstate New York. It was in Eatonton, Georgia, when we had the land. That's where the class was. It took place in 1998. Okay, I was the only one in that class that day that asked 2 questions, and this is the first question I asked. That's why I brought it up. Oh, you said the class on you. I don't know. It might be. I think the young elder posted it, but he had a really bad copy of it. So I hope this copy you guys can hear better.
How do you know once you reach that point of enlightenment, then what? See the word? See the word? Enlightenment? I'm just saying, see how they did it? I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. That in all that you read and all that you study, you still feel there is what's the word? Say it again. A void. And what follows void in the Bible? Void and darkness. Once you finish all the study.
Okay, so I was asking at that time, how do you know when you become enlightened? Because again, that's the whole point of being in Om and being in the Sufi order, being in what we in AEO right now is to make contact. Which as he goes into this class, he goes into more details about it through other questions that other brothers have asked. But the goal is about spiritual development, how to do it, and I was obviously at that time was still trying to comprehend those concepts because I didn't comprehend it at the time. And like I said, I became more aware of what our spiritual abilities were. It took me to 2007 is when I really began to be aware. And then, because what you learn how to be able to do is once you learn how to work with your own energy body, your own spirit energy body, right? That's the first thing, is to become familiar with it. Okay. Once you become familiar with it, then you learn how to raise up your vibration through doing certain things. You'll learn how to increase it. Then as you're raising it, then what happens is the master has techniques, right? Where he teaches you concentration techniques where you can begin to realize that like this third dimension, it almost feels like a bubble. You can actually feel it. Okay, because we're basically within like a field. I don't know any other way to explain it. Because the next realm that you pierce into is the plane of force, and as you raise your vibration, you peer into that. You guys can do it. And because the plane of force is the next realm, and then as you keep raising, the next realm after that is the spiritual plane. Again, it takes a lot of focus and dedication, but it's achievable for everyone. Every student could do this. Every student, guys, can do this. Let me keep reading. Let me finish this letter. we spent a lot of time, but it's good. It's important. So he goes on to say in this letter, says, we were given 30 years, a half an hour to show reverence and our respect and be grateful before the year 2030. And the Bureau will depart with or without you. You will not be able to blame the Baphomet if you fail to raise your etheric body to an acceptable level for rapturing. That's what he said. You have to raise your vibration. And if you guys read the book, Is a Life After Death, he explained the goal, and I've talked about this numerous of times. Your physical body, your cells have to be in alignment with your spiritual body. That's the point of the rituals. Your cells, your physical body has to be in alignment with your spiritual body. And that's done through the ritual techniques, guys. Oh, Glenn, what did he say? He said, so who's going to replace Dr. Malachi Z York now that he's been silenced? And what was he around to? What was he like? I guess you're saying, what was he like to be around, be with, be like? What was around to be with, like? Okay. What was his aura like? Was he psychic as well? The last question, was the master's psychic? Yeah, he was very psychic. The master's third eye was open, so that answers that. Very positive. The master teacher, very positive, very agreeable, very pleasant individual. He was, I mean, I didn't have a personal relationship with the masters. Many students who did have a personal relationship, my relationship with him was just student teacher mainly. It wasn't personal, it was student teacher. But as a teacher and me dealing with him, was I've never had a teacher like him. I mean, he just brilliant being, can answer any question you can think of pertaining to the subject matters that we teach on, and I've asked him numerous of questions. And he's just, I don't know what else to say. The being is brilliant. Now, is there a replacement for him? No, he came to teach us spiritual development. He came to teach us how to make contact with the masters. Guys, that's why I keep telling you gotta study the books. Guys, we're gonna do in the coming weeks, right? Within the next, let me just do this real quick. Guys, you gotta get these books, right? This is a book series. You could download them on Scribes, right, for free, because they're not in print, so you can't buy it, but you could download for free. The Right Knowledge Scrolls. This is number 1. What is NoopooH? Number 2, The Right Knowledge. Number 3, Our True Roots. And number 4, Breaking the Spell on the Blacks. I'm going to do classes on all of those books. We're going to go over each of those books in detail. Now, why am I doing that? Those books came out like in the end of 2001, beginning of 2002, when those books were released. Those books are they're updates, they're revised books, because those books were revised from the first books the master teacher wrote back in the 60s, the Bible interpretations and explanations, and the 9-ball series. Guys, remember I did a whole build on a 9-ball series. If you haven't seen it, go watch those videos, because I broke that down. And I'm gonna do the same thing with these books. These books are very important because these books help you help you better comprehend the books that are out now, the actual facts and the Patarak, the new books that we have. By really comprehending these books, it makes it easier to comprehend the new stuff because the new stuff is updated from this stuff. Okay. So I'm going to go into detail in these particular books. Right back, Tiffany. Okay, let me, time is running. Let me finish. Let me finish at least this one update. I wanted to read more than one because I have more than one. But this is good talk. But let me keep going, guys. All right, so now let me reread this. So we were given 30 years of an hour to show reverence and our respect, to be grateful before the year 2030, right? So the master started in 1970. He was with us for at least 30 years before they kidnapped him and took him from us. And now we're left with, these 30 years. I mean, we only got, guys, we only have, what's that, 7 minutes left, right? 2030, 7 years. He goes on to say, say 2030 arrive and the Bureau will depart with or without you, right? You will not be able to blame the Baphomet. That's another name for the devil. If you fail to raise your etheric body to an acceptable level for rapturing. I say Baphomet because when you look at the depiction of Baphomet, you will see female breasts. You of your own accord, of your own free will choose to follow those FBI agents' implants in the Nawapian tribe. Those Janai from the Aldebaran constellation whose deceitful words and diabolical stratagem appeal to your laziness, your pride, your ego, your negative attributes. He's talking about people who've been possessed, the negative ones who turned against the master teacher by these spirit forces. He goes on to say, even after you were taught seeing is knowing, hearing and reading is believing, they are just doing their jobs, and their jobs are to mislead you, to deceive you. So wake up. Did you really think that these babies could pimp me out? He's talking about the people in our organization who turned against the master. It will be said if you miss the rapture, even though some of you have already been aligned at the Mugaraj site on Tamaray, Egypt of the West. That's on our land, guys. We, the pyramids. The master says some people have been aligned. He taught them how to, to tap into their energy. He says it is equally imperative too that you obey the command to upkeep the rituals of Nawapian Tafu or prayer, or we call it namaz, right? Which was brought to us by Melchizedek or Morduk, the master teacher. He brought us the rituals for doing how to do proper prayer, the rituals. Okay, Morduk is the master of all time who came setting all on the path of Tafu prayer, and in which we have 9 positions. He says, refer to the sacred records of Atum Natha Afrati Atum Re'e, chapter 1. That's the black book for those who don't know. And I showed it when I did the class on prayers, right? Why we pray, So I did that. So guys, I repeat, watch that lecture I did on that class. Let me keep going. Says Mordek said, I will try to bring on Ezekiel's will on Elijah's chariot, as many with you who will obey. So the master is saying, you guys, if y'all listen, you follow what the master teacher's saying, you'll be able to make it. You'll be able to make it on the crafts. Refer to the Holy Tablets, chapter 6, tablet 4, verse 226. It says this, even though prayer is in the language of tones, Nawapic, this tone will vibrate with your body so that you may find your place in the grand plan, right? The Natharu will not consider you until you are praying, guys. You have to do the rituals, as I was talking about. Refer to the scroll, the Mugaraj on Mugaraj scroll, page 178 and 179. Okay, I read that. I read that to y'all. I read that because it talks about how you make contact with your oversoul. I read that to you guys, and I forget what lecture I did that in. But watch the videos. I went over that. Tafu, which is prayer, is working to perfect your being, your etheric self, because it forces you to adapt to an enlarged electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, this is where it goes into the holy tablets, talks about this, guys. The new electromagnetic magnetic frequency, which is an astrobiological threshold by itself. You will have the brain of an electromagnetic computer, and our sun, by virtue of being a variable star, will be seen as having great limitations for future evolutions. This will be seen by a visible exchange of polarity fields and by the mapping of inner solar magnetic lines rotating faster than the surface of the sun. Guys, this is why, if you guys don't notice, there are two suns on their way to the solar system. There are two suns. This is going to become a tri-star solar system, for those who don't know. Okay? Read the book. The master breaks it down in the book. What's that book? It's talking about extraterrestrials. Oh, I forget the name, guys. I'm sorry. I have to look that up. I was so but he breaks it down. Two more suns are coming here, guys. But let me keep going. He goes on to say, these changes will also affect the rotation of Anshar or Saturn, which is a gas, not a planet. This will be seen as a periodic effect, which will be noticed in the activity of the bands or the rings of Saturn called Titan, where there are many planets, right? So the moons, like the moons of Saturn are the planets, guys. These changes are the results of new biological light that controls being being introduced by the new administrative council or the new administrative order in conjunction with the Council of Nine Ether. These changes are necessary to prepare our mortal evolution to overlap with whole light beings of an advanced creation in the evoluting of the new astral mutation. What he's talking about is you have to be able to raise up basically with your oversoul, and your physical body has to be able to align up with in order to make the shift. Because the planet, guys, go back to the smack circle. We're moving from a third density planet, and we're moving into a fourth density planet, guys. So it's important. We went over this before. I went over this before, so I don't have time to just keep studying the lectures because we've covered this before. And this is in the holy tablets, all this information. But he goes on to say, here the bioenergy field of the human body inherits a new electron and positron pair, and the circulatory system inherits a new magnetic lines of force. The ionized field around the blood cells lose its electron-proton relationship to a new electron. This will make you less dense, guys. Less dense. Because right now we have all this mass because of all the weight, all the food we eat. Excuse me, and that's why we have a proton, electron, proton, and it's going to reverse for those who raise up, resurrect. It's going to reverse, and it says electron, proton, electron field as the life form is moved into the next phase of the electromagnetic spectrum. The next phase is we're moving into the higher density, the fourth density, guys. Question, Bennett, what is the oversoul? Oh, that's your higher self. I did lectures on that. So definitely look at the other videos. I can't tell you what videos is that, so you can research it. What the oversoul is. Soul people versus spirit people. Check that video out. Guys, watch that video. Why we pray, chant, and do rituals. The African science of health, guys. Definitely check those videos out because we go into those subject matters. The resurrection versus reincarnation. I deal with the oversoul in that on that lecture, guys. So check that lecture out. And what is the first and second resurrection? Check that lecture as well. And the dimensional shift. Okay, check that lecture out. So we go into the lot in the different lectures, okay? And because this is such a vast subject matter and a vast topic. All right. So let's go on. He said, in other words, Nubians, blacks, Negroes will be able to participate in higher evolutionary worlds because his hemoglobin chain will shift with his final genetic tree to a new system of banners, whereby a singular group, in order to work with the next electron orbital level of universal mind or molecular density level, has to become less dense or grow transparent. And that's what I was saying. You were going to become less dense as you raise in your vibration. You're going to put on a more of a light body, a light energy body. Okay, so your body's going to be physical, but it's going to be a light energy physical body. As for, for those who are able to make the transition, he's talking about. Okay, there are 9 density levels. One is life itself, and level 2 is mind and spirit and soul. We humans are on level 3, which is life and soul with a mind. The 4th density level is super consciousness, or the first stage of being in the all. Guys, it started at the 4th density on up to the 9th density, and that's where we're moving into the 4th density, guys. Okay, so definitely look at that lecture we did on the resurrection, because we go into that. It says you must turn yourself inside out, bring the etheric body to the forefront. Right, that's what I keep talking about. This is accomplished through regular performance of the ritual called Nawapian Tafu, or prayer. We call it namaz now, whereby way of the subtropical force, you are pulling in, accepting, surrendering, and submitting to the purifying effect, healing, pure emerald green energy that is constantly being conveyed to us by Mordak. So you're surrounded by what we call the green light, and you have as you raise your vibration, you can pull in this energy. We also call it Sachem. We talked about that. The power of Sachem. Read the breath book, because in the breath book we break that down, how to harness that into the body. Okay, how to harness it into the body. We put it in the breath book. If I have that breath book right here, the breath book. Study this book, guys. Get it. You can download it for free. Now we have an updated version of the breath book. So for those who need access to the revised version of it, to get to a bookstore. Where is it? Just to show you guys. I thought I had it. I thought I had it. And I don't see it. Okay. Here it is. So this is the updated breath book, right? That we put out, and it teaches you how to harness the energy, the Sachem energy, into the body. Okay, that's what Tai Chi is about. That's what the Hindus talk about, prana, how to harness that. It's all the same thing, guys. Check out the lecture we did, the last lecture we did, because we talked about that, right? We talked about that. The lecture on the African science of health, we talked about it in that particular lecture. Okay, so let me go back. So this is quantum physics, people, not religion. And contrary to what present-day geneticists say, the ultraviolet radiation will be controlled, and it will not destroy the sensitive genetic code coded in melanin. It has already been claimed that ultraviolet radiation will, or when applied to DNA at specific intensities, cause thymine to demo rays when the embryonic growth is placed in an artificial environment, which is subject to prolonged current magnetic injection the former embryonic magnetic lines of force in the body can be changed. Through this process, the whole body can be biomagnetically be recoded and to adapt to a new biological environment without ever having to experience pain, according to the human physiological network. This process uses a fifth circulatory system, which opens a pain coding mechanism and properly aligns blood lymphatic system and the nervous circulatory system to function in different biological environments. Guys, this is done in the event that the transfer of the species to a new environment is necessary for survival of Nuwapians, star people. Nibiru is here to save us, right? So he's basically, our genetics will be altered in order to be able to inhabit other planets. The master's talking about. What more do you need to know? Our rapture has been explained. Can the religious leaders of the world do the same for their congregation? No, not ever, never. These jokers don't even have a clue. Obviously, the Caucasian will demonize Nibiru because it is not here for them. And it is the advent of the great and terrible day of the Lord. The day they're petrified of totally losing their power, guys. They don't want to see this happen. The family, the Natharu who built the pyramids have built crafts 3 times larger than the planet Earth. No one else in the known universes, the omniverses, has this type of technology. We belong to the highest. Anyway, we still have 17 more years. No, we don't. we got 7 years left, guys. This was written a while ago. Or 17 more minutes to get it right before Morduk departs. Remember Saratu Asa, right? This is when we were Ansars, right? The master used to quote this all the time to us. Saratu Asa, the squeezing of the Enocyte soul. It says it will be squeezed from his body. Surely this is the age when the Enocyte, forgetful creature, that's what Enocyte means. We forgot our origins, guys. We forgot our origins. We used to know all this knowledge. In fact, all this information, I'm telling you, it's encoded in your DNA. You can access your memory once you learn how to tap, raise up, and you can, because all the memory is stored in your subconscious mind. But let me keep going. Now it says the soul, it will be squeezed from his body. This is in the Quran, I think it's the 103rd chapter. It talks about the chapter of Al-Asa. It's talking about your soul. It will be squeezed from his body. Surely this is the age when the Enocytes, the forgetful creatures, are overcome by defeat, right? Except for those who are faithful and work to perfect their beings and are advocates of patience. This is plain as black and white. Plain as black and white. Any fool can see it. A song I wrote and produced many years ago. The time is down, family. Wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. You guys have to choose to be celestial beings. I talk about that all the time. You got to choose to be celestial beings. Okay. Here's something else. Yeah, I came 7 years, man. 7 years. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. It's just our people, they're not doing the rituals, guys. They're not doing the rituals. You can do it. I talk about this a lot. You guys can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Okay, says here, we as a race vibrate on F sharp or E. Every race has their own tone. The Mongoloids have their own vibration of sounds. The Dravidian, even the Caucasoid have their own. Native Americans, they have their own tones. The Buddhists chant all the time, and they chant on Om. The East Indians also chant on Om, and they are all around the planet, and their whole life changes for the better, and their voices resonate frequency, which is a natural frequency of unforced vibrations, and they are in tune with the planet, guys. This is we have this ability to be in tune with the planet. Once you raise yourself up. This is why we're supposed to be chanting together. That's why we're supposed to be living together, first of all, so we could do these rituals. as a body, as a group. The master used to do this. You know, he used to do this, the chant, you know, the chanting. We talked about that before. That's what's up, CeeLo. That's correct, Glenn. That's Mukaso is doing everything to stop us from raising. Everything. Yes, One Who Cares. If you listen to One Who Cares, that CD, when the master talked about the chant, the master, when we were Ansars back in the school, back in the 70s, the 80s, you know, we had those chant circles. The master, you know, we would say those chants. You feel the vibrations when you're in those circles, when you're in, you know, in the chants, right? You know, the master's always taught us how to do these things. He goes on to say, here's a little experiment. Take 4 tuning forks. 2 forks should be in the key of F and 2 forks in the key of C. Place them in alternating positions. So you have C, F, and then C and F. You can actually choose any 2 sets of keys of the 8 keys in the octave. If you strike the tuning fork in the C key, the fork next to it in the key of F will not vibrate. Yet the other fork in the key of C will vibrate. Vibrations or frequencies will only vibrate on their own resonance or frequency, guys. And that's what the master's trying to say. We have a frequency that connects us with the masters. So we're vibrating on the same frequency as them. Each race has their own unique vibrational rate. Okay. And they're connected to their overlords, whatever. We have our own. We just have to connect to that tone, to our natural tone. Okay. Says if you did the reverse with the fork in the key of F only, the other fork in the key of F would vibrate as well. The F key occurs in each octave, and so are different people's voices. Now, actually, it ranges from E to F sharp. The Buddhists or chanters would be trained in each octave. So although different pitches may exist, it is the same tone. We have to chant in one tone, unison, not harmony, which can have various parts not necessary on the same tone. We have to learn to train ourselves to the key of F. If we were to chant in opposite directions and everyone was on F, things would vibrate and make things move. If the pyramids were used like this today and the crystals that were once in there were replaced, you would have the same effect. This is how the ships would recharge, by tapping into these vibrations. For example, if you put a cup in a soundproof chamber and point 3 speakers at it from different directions, the cup would float, and that would be a teetering effect. This is the same you would see happening to a ship or a craft that was charging over the top of a pyramid, guys. The Buddhists chant in 3 tones and interlock mind, body, and soul. So again, you have to go to the keyboard the way Baba used to on the land at the drum stand with a keyboard to help people find their tones. However, there is a warning. Baba passed this on to a brother to do Pastor Chance, or the brother, his name is Ruben, who unfortunately kept vibrating and meditating on his tone. Baba used to see him in Macon, and he opened himself up. And now I'm sure you all know the rest of the story. Yeah, the brother got possessed. Excuse me. You can't do rituals in the negative mind. You can't do rituals with a selfish mind. You can't, as I say, you always have to have the positive mind. I talk about that all the time. You have to have a positive mind when you're doing rituals, guys. I can't stress that enough. Okay. As far as the tone, right? Here's this guy, Mukaso. He does an experiment with these with those tuning forks. Now check this out real quick before we time out here.
suppose, or sound, or some such. More exactly, this business of resonance and forced vibrations. Consider the following, which I tried on an earlier lesson to do, but with not too much success, for some reason. About this, I should say more. You know already my philosophy. Experiments, demonstrations never fail. For nature to do what you want her to do, you must meet some very special requirements. If they are not met absolutely precisely, nature will not show what you want her to show. She will do something else. So if the experiment did not succeed in an earlier case, we'll try it again. But we are forced to think of why didn't it work before. Two forks, middle C. Middle C. We hope they're identical. Hollow chambers, resonating chambers. I'm going to strike this one, quiet it, and we will hear that one. Why? This emits 256 pulses per second, which are fed into this one. This picks them up and is set into oscillation. Listen now. There it is, clear as the nose on my face. I'm going to do it again in the reverse order. Listen. There it is. Now, how far apart could this be made to happen? Oh, great distances. Because this is exactly what your ear does, and you could hear me at some great distance.
Okay, so he's showing you how if you're resonating on the same tone, you can connect with someone else who is resonating on the same tone, and it's regardless of distance. That's what the Mukaso found out when they did the what they call that, the split quantum entanglement. Particles that vibrate on the same frequency will still be able to connect and connect regardless of distance. And this is what the master teacher is trying to explain. Because we have the same tone as the Natharu, we all resonate with them. It's just that we're out because our genetics have been messed up, right? Our bad diet, everything we do, the Mukasa mixing in with us. So we have to, once you learn how to get your cells in alignment with your spirit body, as I keep saying, then you can get that tone. You can get that tone back, and then you can make contact. That's how you do it. You make contact. Study it, guys. Read study the book. The master goes into it. The Science of Healing. I talked about this before. The Science of Healing. The breath book. You got the Science of Healing book, right? What else? I think this is the Science of Healing book. Guys, you can download for free because it's not in print anymore. But this is a powerful book. It goes into that same subject matter. Also, the book we put out called the Science of Creation. You guys got to understand the different planes. We talked about that before. You got to understand the different planes, right? We're in a material plane. How do you go to the plane of force, to the spiritual plane, and research people who talk about the out of body experience, because they go into that. People who deal with the out of body experience, they go into that. Okay, and all that type of information will help you. All that will help you to get you on point. So I hope I only did one letter. I had so many more letters I wanted to get through, but we're out of time. It was so much information, we're out of time. Maybe we'll cover more next week, more letters, because there's more information. So we'll see. But until then, it's that time, guys, that we're gonna time out and close out with our prayer with namaz, right? I always do. That's why I do the prayers, guys, to get you guys familiar with it, familiar with the prayers and why the importance of it. It's about spiritual development, correcting your tones. That's why the language is so important. Saying the prayers in our language. It's so right to do it in English until you can learn how to correctly say in our language, Sabaic, but I'm always doing it to get you guys familiar, and plus we supposed to be doing it 9 a.m., 9 p.m., 3 p.m., right? For synchronicity. Okay, that's why we have prayer timelines for synchronicity and all. With that being said, I'm gonna get started. Baday kala namasat wufad ko aman kasemon shalab poot. Pa takyu. Anuki jawef pa ashuk impa poot. Wu kala ashuk kawun jawef nia. Anuki kasemon impa poot. Wu pa poot kawun kasemon imnia. Anuki wahu ama pa poot. Wu pa poot kawun wahu ama nia. Naku kador naju ama kasamun impa poot. Wu khabu ama muskasun. Naku kador kawan kale pafaf naku diya jaweb pa poot. Ama wasa ama diyani kawun lake bakui jaweb pa poot. Anuki yababi nafasni. Pa poot kawun. Anuki pa poot kador. Naku kador. Pa poot amul. Naku amul. Lahahum manahnun. Lahahum manahnun. Ahumata karahum. Ahumata karakum. Ahumata karanun. Ahumata jawefnia. Ahumata niya wu anukihum. Yaye ashuk re'e. Asmua jayenun. Yaye notaru afuknun. Anunata mukra'ukum. Yaye notaru afuknun. Afuknun, afuknun. Yaye notaru nun. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amun. Namazo wahu. Yaye mufaku. Yaye hu. Yaye hu. Yaye notaru. Yaye soye. Yaye soye. Yaye notaru. Yaye hika, yaye nataru. Ankum at the pa mufaku. Yaye hu, yaye nataru. Ankum at the pa mufaku. Wu anu at the mukra ukum. Wu ankum at the musanun. Yaye hu, yaye nataru. Aro muklasnu atum re'e. Yaye hu, yaye nataru. Namazo atu aroan hu. Yaye muktamu afutnun. Ankum mana yakela dudu muslafunun. Wu musaunun. Mana yake sawura paaba. Mana yake kawuna ka'u. Mana yake ata akhak. Mana yake kawuna bashar wu damam. Yaye nataru muktamu nun. Aro muftadnun. Anhu kawun manzama mana pa nataru. Aro anhu. Anhu kawun baba Yaa-nanan. Aro anhu. Anhu kawun atum re'e. Aro anhu. Anhu kawun haro. Namazo talu. Yaye nataru muslafunun. Afutnun mana pa muchwa'u. Afutnun mana gahaan. Yaye nataru afutnun. Mana saya khayara. Afutnun afutniya. Afutnun afutniya. Yaye nataru nun. Namazo rabu pa tahmui. Nakuk talub tahmui bi pa nataru. Mana pa la'en lawi tanan'u. Kalah ranam atni at the lahe pa nataru. Wu kalah namazo atni at the lahe kayat ayatun laye pa nataru. Pa sawa wu pa turuk. Panamis fa kawun. Pa sawa wu pa turuk. Z kawuna nazula laha ankum. Mana masbat wu masa. Ama hade an wu dama'un. Mana muslafukum. Wu nataru. Aju laye nafasukum. Afuk shene kawunkum. Pa sawab wu pa turuk. Pa hadayan wu pa dama'u. Anun tawu ankum. Lehe penendama wu shafe. And nun tawo enkum. Lehetem nasuinun. And nun tawo enkum. Lehe ashukuma. Ankum ata muslafunun. Anun ata mukra'ukum. Anun talub nasakuma. Anun talub nasakuma. And so nun kahen nataru. And so nun muslafunun. Anun ata muspatu. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amun. Ya ye no taru nun. Ya ye muftau. Ya ye no taru. Ya ye atum re. Ya ye no tar. Ya ye nun. Ya ye no tar. Ya ye nun tat. Ya ye no tar tat. Ya ye ha. Ya ye no tar. Ya ye ha tat. Ya ye no tar tat. Ya ye kak. Ya ye no tar. Ya ye kak tat. Ya ye no tar tat. Ya ye amun. Ya ye no tar. Ya ye amun tat. Ya ye no tar tat. Ya ye atum. Ya ye no tar. Ya ye shishash. Ya ye no tar. Ya ye tafak na tat. Ya ye no tar tat. Ya ye sabab. Ya ye no tar. Ya ye not tat. Ya ye no tar tat. Ya ye arash tat. Ya ye no tar tat. Ya ye asar. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye nabab tat hatat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye sataf. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye hara. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye hatwi. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye anaktat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye aha haratwi. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye nafartun. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye mantu. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye bapti. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye sechamtat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye hata haratat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye aba ibis. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye patata. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye basasat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye imhatat. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye hu. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye matat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye mahat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye kafaf re'e. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye miskanat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye re'e tat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye kintamin to you. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye hika'a. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye ma'at. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye renan tat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye she. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye sashat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye mafdat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye sabak. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye anak. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye chanun. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye chanas. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye patatanun. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye soye. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye hatat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye amas. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye sadatwi. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye atum re'e. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye tahutwi. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye patata wadat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye sakatat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye ha. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye neheb ka'a. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye sakar. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye ba'a. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye akar. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye imharatat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye wapawatat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye sachat hatap tat. ya ye nathar tat, ya ye meri tat sakar tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye soye tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye garat tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye asat inu, ya ye nathar, ya ye bahatat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye chanem tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye manak tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye chamem, ya ye nathar, ya ye mahatwi, ya ye nathar, ya ye kabefsin and afaf, ya ye nathar, ya ye damatar afaf, ya ye nathar, ya ye meritat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye nasat, ya ye nathar, ya ye imdadat tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye nakhak batat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye sakhatat, ya ye nathartat, ya ye anaktat, ya ye nathartat, ya ye dadad, ya ye nathar, ya ye tun, ya ye nathar, ya ye wahu, ya ye nathar, ya ye yesas, ya ye nathar, ya ye anach, ya ye nathar, ya ye afnuit, ya ye nathar, ya ye satat, ya ye nathartat, ya ye sakhatwi, ya ye nathar, ya ye imat, ya ye nathar, ya ye nana, ya ye nathar, ya ye emnuit, ya ye nathar, ya ye emsataktwi, ya ye nathar, ya ye mugdaltat, ya ye nathartat, ya ye warahashafaf, ya ye nathar, ya ye maratwi, ya ye nathar, ya ye amun re'e, ya ye nathar, Yehu and after Khaled Jawef Pa'ut Nun Re'e Tun Re'e Tun Re'e Mun Re'e Amun. 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 Getting the 4. Okay. So as we do every week, we try to do the prayers, the rituals, and at the end of the prayers, we go into the chant. As I was just chanting Amun. Now we should be doing that as a group, as opposed to just me, an individual. Again, this is the benefit of us, living as a community. We'll be able to do these things as a group, and we will have effects. We will have some serious spiritual effects in doing these things. And this is also a reason why it's important to get the master teacher, because he's the guide. He's the one who has the right knowledge on all of these things. He's the one. And it's so imperative. I highly recommend, guys. I'm always telling you guys, watch the lectures more than once. Definitely watch the lectures more than once for your own personal edification. There's a lot of things, I've said it many times. I watch my own lectures more than once. So if I have to do it, you guys definitely should be doing it, and it's for our own good, all of us, because the goal is we got it. There has to be a meeting of the mind so that we can start doing things collectively. This is why we're divided, because we have different points of view, different opinions, and we don't supposed to have those things. We're supposed to be agreeing, same doctrine. We're supposed to see it the same way so that we can do things collectively as a group. This is the basis of our whole culture, us working in harmony together, and we're not. We do not belong this divided, and we only divided because we have all these varying opinions about how we see things and how we see this doctrine. And if people have a disagreement, whatever it is I'm trying to do when it comes to the doctrine, then talk. That's why we have the class, so we can talk, so we can get, where we can see things eye to eye. We'll hash it out, so we can all come to a consensus. We're going to stay divided as long as individuals want to stay in their cubby holes and we don't communicate with each other, guys. We have to start communicating. There's too many of us out there. And there's too many people, who are beating us. We're the ones with the right knowledge, and we're not letting the world know how powerful our doctrine is. And as we said before, we say it in our prayers, right? Where is it at? Here we go. I can succeed as a part of all, expanding, and fail as an individual. Nakuk kador naju amer kasem un impapuut. I can succeed as a part of all, expanding. Wu chabub amer muskasun, and fail as an individual. We are going to continue to fail as long as we stay individualized. Once we come together, that's where our power lies, and that's coming together. And we will only come together when we have a meeting of the minds, when we all agree on these concepts, guys. So with that being said, Hatat Wu Ashuk. That's right. Hatat Wu Ashuk. How can you get a copy? I will send it to you. Just give me your email, right? Put it in the comment section, right? Send me the email, or my email is in my description. You can email me, and I will email it to anyone who wants the chance. I will email it to anyone who wants the chance. Okay, guys. So just send it to me. With that note, I'll be back next week. And we probably do more letters because I only got to do one letter, and there's so much more to talk about. So study that letter, go over it, right? And hopefully, that will help you guys out. And we're going to be doing NoopooH News on Friday, so be on the lookout for that. And spread the word, guys. We can't grow. And let's each one teach one. Spread the word, man. Each one teach one. This is how we grow. And everyone's obligated to do that. Each one teach one. Until then, why do, Muisar? Why do? And be safe, guys. Definitely be safe,